Okay. Could you expand on the idea that post D-Day marriage relationship?
Um, but I'm sorry, guys, to be late.
Can
I
you
didn't
hear
hear the
me?
question.
Okay, so
Yeah.
could you expand on the idea that post D-Day marriage relationship recovery includes considering the relationship prior to discovery as over?
Can you give me a shorter version of that? I'm not exactly sure, and we're doing my best.
Yeah, no,
What
I
are they
got it.
asking?
To me, it seems like they're saying the relationship you move forward with is different than like that old relationship is gone.
Yes.
So can you
Is that a question?
well, it's can you expand on that? Like
Sure. I
what do
mean,
you mean when you say that?
yeah. Oh, sure. So imagine that you fall in love with someone and you make a commitment to them, and that commitment's in writing, and you sign a contract with them, and they expect you to act a certain way. And usually the way we think about, I think, our partners is something like, at least I with my husband, 20 years, it's like, this is the person who's going to have my back. This is the person who, no matter what, they're not going to go out there and do something that they know would devastate me and do it anyway. We expect the people we love, and maybe it's naive, but it is that innocent expectation that I'll be the person for them. And I'm not just talking about sex or romance. I'm talking about they're looking out for me. And once you find out that actually this person has been out in the world and they weren't looking out after you at all, and they were doing lots of things that might have hurt you and damaged you, your relationship will never be the same, because that naive sense of, this person's going to be there for me and I can always trust them and they wouldn't go out there and hurt me is all gone. And now you have to deal with someone who could hurt you more, and you are suspicious and not feeling trusting. And that, I'll just say it like Beyonce said it. Beyonce said, infidelity is what did she say? Cheating. She said cheating is like a plate. You can break it, but the crack will still show. And I think that's what happens to our relationships. They may be, in fact, I'll say this, Tami, when you try to break a plate again, it doesn't usually break where the glue is because it's stronger there. So it's just going to be different. And I think that's part of the acceptance, is not saying, oh, we're going to go back to the way things were. That's just not going to happen.
So part 2 of this is, so to heal, we must pretend our marriage is over and begin again. But that isn't true, and the sentiment feels like a mind trick. So to me, I'm thinking that, because to me, a little bit of this is I'm choosing. So from this day, I'm choosing to move forward with the person that I thought that is different than I thought it was. So it isn't that it isn't that all the history and stuff you had is completely all wrong.
Right.
So you're taking those memories, they're probably a little different, but at this point, you're going, I understand that this person has challenges. This person, like Dr. Rob was talking about, he has fractures. Our relationship has fractures, but we're going to do the best we can, gluing it together, eyes wide open, moving forward. So, thoughts?
Nice. No, I think we did a good job. Good job, Tami.
Okay, so what are the pragmatics of starting over when really you're not? I kind of think that's what you're making a choice. You're making a choice.
Well, pragmatics are things like boundaries. What concretely should we be doing? And I think that's one of the gifts of couples therapy in the beginning. In the early stages, I probably wouldn't go to couples therapy because you both need to get support on the outside. And my experience of early couples therapy in this situation is, you ruined my life, I'm sorry. You ruined my life, I'm sorry. But what it is really good for is saying, these are the times we're going to talk. This is what we're going to talk about. This is when we're going to be together. This is when we're not. And just really clearly delineating what works for you, what might work for them. And that way, you at least have clarity when they say, I don't want to talk about that right now, because they'd agreed that they're only going to talk to you in the evening, or you don't, I think it's really good to establish those rules, because it's like, Tam, you're not going back to the same relationship. You don't know what the rules are now. And with you partners, I think you really have to trust your gut and negotiate and, get what makes you feel safe. And by the way, everyone, the most important thing in this healing of marriages is that you make your partner feel safe, that you somehow leave them feeling like, oh, maybe I can rely on this person. And that's your job, in part.
Okay, next question. What is a typical treatment plan like? My SA is doing individualized therapy with a CSAT and trying to do 12-step program as well. Is that enough? How many 12-step meetings should he join each week? He hasn't found a sponsor or an accountability partner. So I am his accountability partner. Scream for
Is that
me for now. That was
partner?
as a partner is
Okay,
saying
got
that
it.
they are the accountability partner.
Okay, well, I can speak to that.
Well, hang on. I
It's,
don't know any accountabilities, partners' responsibilities are. The only thing I do is checking if he's doing his work each day or not. He says finding a sponsor and AP will take time because he needs to find the right person. Oh my gosh, according to his therapist. Could the sponsor and AP be the same person? Anyway, there's more, but let's talk.
so there's a lot of questions in there. I'm going to ask you, Tammy, can we pull them out one at a time?
Yes, the first one is it enough if he is just going to his therapist and doing some 12-step, but doesn't have a sponsor or accountability partner?
Well, we have a treatment center. It's called Seeking Integrity. We're actually very full of gentlemen right now who I spent the day with, and I have a feeling they're watching. And
They are. They said
so,
hi.
Tammy, what do you think I'm going to say about these guys? Every
Yeah,
one of them. Go ahead.
I'm just, no, you go for it. They had
No, I'm
listened to
waiting
me
for.
enough. So
No, you go.
if you are not seeing changes, all I heard was he's making excuses. So what I hear is there's not enough. So to me, no, if you're asking the question, is it enough? It's not enough.
And I would say, and thank you, Tammy. I was just we're good. We're partners here. I would say, how will you ever feel safe? You know what and there's nothing wrong with going a 12-step program, not getting a sponsor. Lots of people go for support, but this is probably related to some crisis. And this person created this crisis and it's been going on probably for a long time. So that means they have to get deeply involved in their process. And let me just say something about 12-step. If you take all of the language out, if you take all of the information out, it's about people building community. It's about people with like problems building community. And you can't do that. And part of that process is finding one or two people that will tell you the truth, who will be there, who will guide you through the process. And so it's like, I don't know, it's like going to the movie theater and sitting outside while everyone else is in the theater. You might poke your head in a little bit, but you don't know what the movie's about, and you're certainly not enjoying it. This person, addicts cannot have one foot on the dock and one foot on the boat. They have to jump in with both feet or go back to the way things were. Otherwise, they'll hate themselves. Like, I can't get this right, and you're going to hate them more. By the way, one more thing. The guys that we work with, I don't know if they know this yet, but when they go home, if they're married or in a relationship, we're going to give them a set of things to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which involves 12-step meetings and talking to us about whatever. And they're going to put that on the refrigerator, so that whoever is living with that person knows, oh, at 2 o'clock they went to a meeting, or 3 o'clock they talked to a sponsor, oh, tomorrow they're going to therapy, so that you can be reassured. You don't have to ask, did you go to a meeting tonight? You know, it should just be there and it's expected. Addicts, it is a minimum requirement. If you want to heal your marriages, for you to stand up and show up and do what you're supposed to do. Your spouse should never, as Tammy just said, be asking us this question. I did write a book about this. I will say it's called Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And if I had to sum that whole book in one word, which is about what men do to women and how they harm them and what women need to heal, the word that comes to mind is humility. That I have been so humbled by what I have done, and this person is so important to me that I'm going to prostrate myself in front of them and say whatever I can do, and I'm going to do it for a long time. If I want to stay with them. And the guys will say, oh, well, it's been 3 months. Why does she have these expectations? Why do I have to still be nice to her? That's basically what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of your life. So anyway, I'll drop that. Tammy, please continue. Anything for that or a new question? Oh,
Well,
there are several questions.
well, the other thing, yeah, please, you should not be his accountability partner.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And at the very least, and this is truly at the very least, the Sex and Porn Addiction 101 work group that starts March 6th. It's a facilitated psychoeducational component where 90 minutes every week, $350. This is not a huge investment, but it's structured to go through the Sex Addiction 101 workbook. There'll be a 3-circle plan. They'll have some information and at least a plan that would be, like I said, the very least. But to talk about accountability partner.
Oh, so the problem with being a spouse, listen, you guys want to know. And we need someone to know what our struggles are, but not you. You can hear about if there's something serious. Like if I was an alcoholic and I went back to drinking, you need to hear about that. But if I thought about drinking, if I called the bar, if I checked on hours of the bar, that would not be something I'd necessarily tell you about. That's my sponsor. That's my program. That's where I get the support for where it might go next. And if you do that for the person, then you're no longer their wife. You are their parole officer. And you do not want someone checking in with you. You want to be a wife. And I think, didn't they say, wasn't there an expression in there like, or as I
I
recall?
did that.
Oh, that was you.
That was me editing in there. So yeah. So
But it's
because I was
yucky,
like, I
right? You
hate
don't,
that. So
but I understand. And I'd be curious who asked. Did he say, I want to be accountable to you so you won't be mad at me? Or did you ask for it? Or I'd be curious. We don't have to do that now. But I do think for spouses, your expectation should be that we are going to be honest with you, that we're going to tell you the truth, that you will never know if anything meaningful happens in our behavior. But in the day to day, we're going to struggle. We're going to look at people, we're going to, and we have to go to meetings and call a sponsor. And that's what all that is for. That structure has a reason. Anyway, please, let's move it.
okay, next question. Can you please speak about the relationship with the SA and his AP? Now, I'm not sure if that's the affair partner or accountability partner, so that's a little challenging. Assuming that they are both drug addicts, as far as how possibly this relationship can exist, last, endure after the end of the SA marriage. Affair partner. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, so can you please speak about how the relationship between the sex addict and his affair partner, assuming they are both drug addicts, as far as how possibly this relationship can exist, last, endure after the end of the SA marriage? I can't imagine this relationship could be healthy or successful.
Well, can you just read that last sentence again, Tammy?
I can't imagine this relationship can be healthy or successful.
So what do you need us for? I mean, you already know in your gut exactly what's going on. You know that you're both people with a lot of dysfunction. I don't know how long ago you ended your marriage, but did you give time to grieve it? With affair partners, men often go from this woman to that woman to that woman. And that's a problem for us. Other men, this is typical for men, by the way, they don't want to just jump on their own. They usually jump with somebody, but and that might be fine for people who have an affair, and lots of people get left for the next partner. Shit happens, and I don't approve it or not. But sex addicts, we don't have an option. We don't get to do things or not do. We have to do these things. So, Tammy, anything else you want to?
Do you know how many calls I get from people who were the previous affair partner and now they're being cheated on? And like,
Right.
I'm like, of course, like I know people think it's magically going to be me, but like you just said, if he hasn't done his work, it's often the female that's reaching out. If he hasn't done his work, of course he's going to jump to the next person. You guys proved that you can cheat. You both cheated, and now he's cheating on you again.
And just for the sake of saying it, and Tammy knows this because she talks to everyone who's coming into treatment, I've got a room full of guys who have done this. I got a room full of guys. I talked to one gentleman today who said, I said, how many affairs? And his number was in the 20s or something. And it's like, some were close lovers, some were friends, some were just someone to sleep with. So I have worked with so many men who say, and I really have feelings about this. They come into treatment or they come to us and say, I don't know what to do. I have this split and I don't know how to decide. Well, I know what they're talking about. What they're saying is, I'm married to this person, I'm having an affair with this person, and which one do I pick? And my answer is neither one. You need to spend some time alone because you don't know how to treat people that you love in a respectful way. And I guarantee you well, I won't say this, but many of the men that I work with who are having an affair are, as Tammy said, also seeing sex workers or cheating on their affair partner. And it's not unusual for someone who did not realize they're a sex addict to be in this pattern of doing this and not even realize what they're doing. About the relationship, what do you think, Tammy? They're both drug addicts. I don't know if they're sober, they're not.
To me, it's one of those.
Find words.
Like, well, it's like, if you want to do things in a different way, you do things in a different way. If you keep hanging out at the bar and you're a drug addict and alcoholic, you're probably going to keep drinking. So unless they're both in recovery, but there's so much messy history. To me, it just, it feels like a poor life choice. So,
and it's one thing to go from one person to another. It's different to go from one person to an active addict. I had a guy in treatment not that long ago who I asked him how long he'd spent with his affair partner, and he was like, it was under a year. And I said, and how much, actually they had moved in together. It was not an affair anymore. And I said, and how much of that time have you spent together sober? And it was
Mm.
like a few weeks or a month. So yeah, I think on every level to get involved with the person that you acted out with, and then to bury it or struggle with drugs. And this is just not, well, first of all, trust yourself. You said it to us. How could this ever work? I don't think it will. You're right. I don't think it will either. And besides, you need some time for you to grieve your marriage and grieve the losses and think about what you want to do next. Oh, one more thing. I never made, and I will give this to all of you. Cami, are you dying back there? Are you okay? You got something in your throat in here. Okay, bring those lozenges on. Now I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, where were we? Yeah, I don't know why I can't find these questions when I want to. Anyway, is there anything you want to say about that, Tammy? Can you say things? No. Okay, well, let me read the next question. I struggle with a lot of ambivalence about reconciling with my partner. We've been married over 35 years, living separately for 5, but I don't know who's we have been talking about reconciliation in the future. I definitely still love him, but he is starting recovery, and I know he has a lot has to happen for him to rebuild trust and safety with me as a betrayed spouse. And I would also say for him to build a sense of trust and safety with himself. I struggle with shame about still wanting to be in the relationship despite the pain I had in the marriage. So I really want to address that to all of you spouses. Um, I've worked with people who were physically abused. They were hit, horrible stuff, domestic violence. And the person is no longer in their life, and they've moved on. They are dealing with their with the results of having been violated in that way. And then they'll look up and they'll say, but I don't understand why I still care about him or her. Like, how could I care about them after what they did to me? And it's not that simple. Love is something that is emotional, and it's deeply embedded in our brains, and it doesn't just disappear because somebody disappointed me, let me down, or hurt me, no matter how much. And so many of you spouses are still in love with us. Why wouldn't you be? We spent all these years together, whatever time we spent, we did things, we hung out, we have friends, whatever it is. My husband is not just my sex partner. We enjoy each other. We have fun together. We love each other, so I think there's so much there more there than what you're asking about. And personally, if it were me, asked like 5 years apart, and he's just really starting to get into the recovery, so I suggest you wait. You're already not living together, so why don't you do some couples therapy? Why don't you? One of the things I recommend is date, if that's what you're going to do. Go see him for an hour on a walk outside. Um, do some short activities, get on a Zoom and watch a movie together. I mean, do things that you can enjoy together that will not necessarily tick off all of these boxes, but you need to start getting to know each other again. 5 years is a long time to be separate. And please, all of you, forgive yourselves for loving broken people. Please, otherwise we would never get loved. And I did write a book about this called Prodependence, which is all about don't blame yourself for loving someone who's troubled. I say you are amazing for hanging out with and hanging in there. The fact that you still have feelings for this person, I think, is a gift. And you see it and you get to decide what you want to do with it. I just wouldn't hurry. Feelings are not facts. So we're feeling closer, we're getting along, it feels right. Maybe how hard is this person working on their healing, and how long have they been at it? And there's so many pieces to this. And I wonder, Tammy, wherever they are, does she or he, this person, have a professional who understands what needs? Those of us who understand this work know that there are certain steps that have to be taken for any couple to begin to heal, whether they've been separated or not, like disclosure, where you share everything you've done that your partner didn't know about, and then they get to be an equal in all the knowledge, and then they get to decide what they want to do in the relationship. So there are many, many steps to take, and I think you're wise to be asking us these questions, but what I suggest is and you can write us, Tammy, TAMI at Seeking Recovery, Seeking Addiction. Oh my God, seekingintegrity.com. You can write Rob at seekingintegrity.com. And we don't get kickbacks. We just, after all, I won't say all these years, after many years of working together in this field, we really know who the better therapists are. And I don't like bad therapists can set you back a ways. So if you want that, just write Tammy, But you should do this with counseling, not on your own.
And I want to add that disclosure is not, because I had another one of these today where somebody just told the person, and I'm like, that's not
Oh.
disclosure, that's dumping information. So a disclosure that Dr. Rob was talking about is a therapeutic disclosure with professionals. There's a whole process to prepare for it and support you through it. So don't just go, oh, I'm going to clear the field and I'm going to tell my loved one everything. No, that's a terrible idea.
And I want to add to that, Tammy. There are men that I work with just today who said and have said, my wife told my kids about it. I told my kids about it. I manned up and told them, I don't think that you should ever tell your children this personally. I think that no child wants to think about their father's sex life. No one wants to think about. None of you know how a child or a young adult is going to react 3 months, 6 months, a year down the line when they feel like you hurt my mom and I want to protect my mom. And Tammy and I have seen too many couples where they were really doing well and really trying to work it out. And kids were like, they were angry, like you can't be with, and mom was fighting the kids. And so the other thing is that it will never leave their head. Once you tell you can't take it back, and they will picture it and they'll think about who you're with and when you're with. And was it, it's just not, tell them that you've been struggling with some emotional issues that you're really trying to heal, that you really take care, that you took some time out. But if you can avoid it, try not to tell them this. And sometimes, by the way, I think that's very impulsive. It's like Tammy said, well, I'll just tell you every single thing I've ever happened to me. Of course, there'll be no therapist around. And do you know how we do disclosure? And I'll just say this, we only do it when a partner has support. So I'm not going to dump, as Tammy said, all the information about your history. I'm not going to do it. You're going to do it. But I'm not going to ask you to do that in front of someone who's going to leave there devastated. And who do they turn to? Their sister. This person needs support and guidance for them to do what they need to do. So anyway, Tammy, I'll turn it over to you. I'm blathering about all that.
Well, I'm going to add one more thing, and it's not, I'm going to tell you everything, meaning that it's a 20-page narrative of all these things. It's concise, it's factual, it's the information that a partner and spouse really absolutely needs, but not in a manner that's more traumatizing. So, okay, enough
and
about
let me
disclosure.
touch on
Go
that.
ahead.
What we sorry, Tammy, we could talk about this all day. When we disclose, we don't say, and this person looked like that, and this was really hot, and we don't give them anything to think about, to compare themselves. I might say, I was with 3 sex workers this month, but I wouldn't say what they looked like, what kind of sex we had, because again, that's something a spouse will never get out of their head. And I'll say something to your spouses, I know you want information. You are the information gatherers. And that makes sense, because if your spouse had cancer, you'd be researching cancer. So now they have this and you're researching this. But don't think, all of you spouses, that our answering one more question is going to make you feel better, because you will always have one more question because you don't feel safe. And every time, as my experience, a spouse, they get some answers, and then something pops in their head. They're like, wait, what about this? And what you're looking for is reassurance. And a lot of times a couple of things. Number one, you want to know what's really going on. I understand that. But the constant questioning, like all day long, that some people do, it's not healthy for a relationship, because you have to get through the day and you have to do the things you have to do. And there can't be this constant dark cloud of you're running up to them and saying, well, did you do this? Did you do that? And then they lie or they don't. Tammy's heard me say this many times, find a time every evening when you say, from 8 to 9, when the kids are in bed or whatever, we're going to talk about this. And I just tell spouses, carry your phone around and write a note about whatever questions you have. And then when you meet, bring them up. And that's a boundaries thing, by the way. That would be the kind of thing a couples therapist would do in the very beginning if they knew what they were talking about, which was saying, don't fight all day. Don't get into, set a time. Or we have a saying, and all the guys in treatment, we tell them that when they call their spouses, we want them to do news, weather, and sports. We don't want you guys to get into it while someone's in treatment. That's what we're for. And we will sit between the two of you and work on it. And what Tammy said too about dumping, I know that you want to hear all this, and I really want you to hear all this. And I'm going to act this out. And I'm tired of your nagging me, and I'm tired of your complaining. You want to know, I'll tell you. And guess who feels better? We do, because we got this all off our chest, and now we're known and we feel better. But who doesn't feel better? You, because we've just dumped a dump truck of garbage on your life. And it's fine for us to tell you, but you need support and it needs to be in a particular environment. And by the way, we often forget things. So if we're not working with someone and clearly identifying what we did and writing it down, and then, you don't want 3 months later to go back and say, how come you didn't tell me about this? So we are thoroughly prepared for this disclosure process, and it has to be done with a professional, in my opinion. Okay, I'm done.
I agree. And that's what I wanted to add on. Okay, Dr. Rob, how can I get my SA husband to share more of his real feelings? I feel like he's often withholding his real thoughts and refuses to share his true feelings. Is it because they are so used to lying, or is he just scared to say the wrong thing to hurt me even more? How do I get him to be more open and vulnerable? Also, can I tell when he is honest and when he's lying? I have a hard time now, and I used to trust him so much. Thank you. I'm assuming, because this feels like it's fairly early on, doesn't it, to you?
I can't tell. I don't know. I would say, and it's so awful, Ted, because I wish I could read the questions that you have, and I want to look back at them, but I just can't. So
Do you want me to read it
yeah,
again?
just the question in there, if you don't mind.
The question is, well, there's several, but actually
Early on, the person
it's
wrote in
very
said
early on. Okay, so I'm going to read it again. So how do I get my SA husband to share more of his real
Oh, right.
feelings? Withholding, refuses to share his true
Right.
feelings. He's lying. Is he scared to say the wrong thing to hurt me even more? How do I get him to open up and be vulnerable? Also, how can I tell when he is honest and when he's lying?
Well, I don't think you can get anybody to open up and be vulnerable. And what I would ask you is, how many of these skills did he have before? Like, I think a lot of us, excuse my language, are assholes to our partners when we're actively acting out. We don't listen, we don't pay attention, we don't show up, we're self-invested, all that stuff. But this should all change to some degree over time. Tammy and I often talk about, like, I can, even with alcohol, it doesn't matter what the addiction is, I could learn how to stop that. I can learn how to stop drinking or acting out or whatever it is, but learning how to be a better person, a kinder, more empathic person, that takes work. That might take a couple of years. And unfortunately, you spouses, and I get it, or partners, you feel entitled. It's like, and I think in a good way, like, hey, you did this to me, and now I deserve, as you do, a more communicative partner, more engaged, whatever it is that you feel you deserve. I think you're right. Sorry about that. But they may not be ready to act in a way that is the kind of partner that you would want them to be. And I think it's important to let them know that. I don't feel like you're sharing with me. I'm disappointed that you're not more open with me. How can I mean, I think these are good questions to ask him. Is he aware of it? Does he even know that he's shutting you down? I work with guys in treatment, I act that way. There's a lot of investment in not being self-aware or other aware when you're an active addict. You don't want to know about yourself because you're too busy lying to yourself about what you're doing, and you certainly don't want your partner to know. So coming into integrity, meaning being one person with everything on the table and just facing you or anybody else, is not familiar. I'm not familiar. And one more thing. One of the things that the addicts have to give up in the process of healing is control. When I have the information, when I know everything, then I'm in control. I decide what you know, when you know it, what you don't know. But part of the intimacy that is developed if we do disclosures, now there's no more secrets. Now we are both connected. Now we both understand what's going on. I would probably say something like, I wonder, you hear that noise, Tammy?
I do hear it.
Let me fix that. I would
Okay.
probably say, I wonder, I'm not feeling like our relationship is moving forward in the way you seem to be healing. Could we see a couples therapist? Could we work on this? But what Tammy said is important. Her one question is this: early. Early matters. So if you don't want to close this door, if you have a thought about that.
Yeah, I do, because like Dr. Rob was talking about, like, there aren't the skills. So lying to ourselves, lying to everyone else. But I've said this on another webinar before too. It's like, he's like in kindergarten, you're asking him to write a paper that he would write in college. He doesn't have the words to do it. He doesn't have any of the tools to do that. So he can learn, but it's going to take time for him to get, to college instead of being at kindergarten. So it's very difficult. And like Dr. Rob was talking about, if we're compartmentalizing, if we're numbing out, we're escaping all those negative feelings, all of a sudden you're asking us to look at what our real feelings are. When I first got sober, somebody said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I don't know. I'm just feeling and I hate it." Like, just identifying, like I needed the little
Has
chart
that changed, Tammy? Has that
no, I
changed?
actually do know my feelings now. Yes, I
Okay.
no, I actually do. And
But
I
you're still
appreciate
feeling them.
I feel them now. I didn't numb them out, you know, and but to be able to tolerate feeling them and to identify what they were, that was a challenge. So I learned. Okay, next
By the way,
question.
this
Go
is
ahead.
two more things. Number one, this is why we get a sponsor, because we may not be able to understand how to be honest and clear and respectful with you, but we can learn it with another man, perhaps. The other thing is there was another question there, which is how do I begin to trust this person again? And I'll say to you what I say to everybody. At this point for you guys, love is behavior. That's it. You know, is this person not with my asking or complaining, but on their own, going to support groups? Have they found their own therapist? Have they, you know, did they drop in on some of our addicts groups once a week and say, hey, what's it like with these guys? You know, what are they doing? And it's their job to demonstrate to you. Like, if you don't feel the warmth and the connection and as Tami said, it can take a while, but you should be able to see a commitment to change in concrete ways. And at least you can rest assured, because it's my experience, that if the person's committed to healing, that over time they will start to grow as a better person. It gives them the soil to grow from. But when they're acting out, I mean, most of us, last thing, active alcoholics, I used to hear when they get sober, they're like 9 years old. And they have a lot of work to do. I mean, it's not just us, right? I mean, that's a big thing in
True.
AA. Is that true
Yeah.
too?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we say you're only as old as you were when you started acting out. So
Right.
I was 13.
Okay. Betrayed partner here. I want social media transparency with my partner who is a sex porn addict. They were incested by their mother, and when I ask or intrusively go through their media history, it reminds them of a time when their mother went through their porn history in an inappropriate, incestuous way. They are triggered by me going through their media. How can I go through the media without triggering them? I don't want them to be in a relationship with an addict if there is no transparency. I don't want to be in a relationship with an addict if there's no transparency. So
I mean, I have lots of thoughts about this, but why don't you
okay.
start, Tam?
Well, I'm a little confused. So maybe you can help me, because they said they were incested. Oh, so your partner and siblings. Oh, I just made sense, because I was like,
He was
who's
incested
they?
by his mom, who was intrusive,
Yes.
and now she's doing healthy things like finding out what the heck's been going
Right.
on.
Okay.
And he's still saying, and that is understandable to some degree, I feel intruded upon. So why don't you do this? Ask for his permission, you know, and make it ask, you know, would it be okay if I look at this today? Of course, the answer always has to be yes. But sometimes people with trauma just need to feel a sense of control. And if you can give him that control by saying, okay, I'll look at it with you here, I'll look at you not here, you know, all that stuff. Somebody wrote something. Oh, kids. Oh, this is a great thing. So I want to actually go on with this one, Tami, if you don't mind, even though it came up in the chat, unless there's
Okay.
something else you want to.
Well, so do you have anything else to add to that particular one?
I'll leave it to you. Trust.
Okay. I was thinking, if I understand the transparency, but I also wonder about having filters that go to his sponsor, that go to his therapist or whatever, so that there's accountability that maybe takes you out of the loop with the transparency. So that was my only thought with that.
So, and my only comment is someone is very angry at me for lecturing at them about not telling their kids. So I would say every time I'm here, take what you like and leave the rest. You may or may not like what I have to say. You may or may not agree with it. I will tell you that I have 25 years of this work, and I've run into a lot of children, including some people that Tami and I know, who were told, and they don't feel, they wish they hadn't been told. They wish. It's fine to say, I just do not think that it is. I know it's not our job to tell personal sexual details to a child or a young adult. I know that. And it is never okay to say to your kids, your dad cheated on me, because that's using them for you to get support when it's not your job to turn to your children for support. So I do have feelings about this, and I want to push you back big time. It is not my job to give you anything about what you should or shouldn't do in your life. I was asked a question and I answered it. I do not think that we should tell our kids. You may feel differently. Go right ahead.
This particular component says, well, there's a component to it. It says our children found out before we did. So let's talk about when the kids, because I've had that before too, where, you know, so now that the damage is done,
Different issue.
they actually had, yeah, that's completely different than someone just, I mean, because we often get the, you know, I got to tell you what your dad did or whatever, or like you said, you know, with the dad going, I'm going to tell you because I want you to,
Right. You're going to know
yeah,
me, right?
that's, yes, that's a
Mhm.
whole different thing. So let's talk about when kids are the, like, how horrible is that they now know, and they're often put in a position between parents holding information too. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I always say safer therapy. If you've got a child put in a position where they feel that one parent betrayed the other and they have to pick one or the other, and now you're telling them sexual details, which I don't think you should tell them, feel free to start collecting money for their therapy because they're going to need it. I believe that parents betray the very precious role of protecting our children at any age when we introduce them to such damaging information. It's not for them, it's not meant for them. And if you see an addiction in one of your children, feel free to bring it up. The way that we deal with intergenerational addiction, my dad was an alcoholic, I'm a sex addict, is we stop it. We stop the behavior and we show up for our families. It isn't about quizzing our kids or your dad's an addict, are you in it? No, it's not about warning them. It's about reality. So anyway, I'll leave it there.
Okay, so Dr. Weiss, I've come out with as much information as I can remember from my lives trying to restore trust. How can I get my wife to trust me again? I'm a sex addict and had sex 4 times a year with the same massage therapist for about 4 years. I love my wife and I know she's hurting badly, but there are things she's saying I did that I didn't do. I'm really working hard to remember. How do I restore trust?
Um, so we talked about disclosure. I'd like you to start with this one, Tammy, if you don't mind.
Okay, because it does not sound like it
And how
sounds like you've
long?
come up, yeah, it sounds like you've come out with all this information. I don't hear that there was a therapist involved. I don't hear that there was disclosure. So I don't know what support she's been getting. We have betrayed partner groups on sexandrelationshiphealing.com. I'd love for her
They're
to
free.
participate
They're
in
free.
those. Yeah, those are free. And then there are codependent aligned support therapists as well. So, and Dr. Rob mentioned his book, Out of the Doghouse, a bit ago. That is a book for working on restoring trust.
Empathy.
Yeah,
It literally tells you how to be empathic even. And by the way, empathy is a late stage part of our healing, but you can act your way into being well. I will notice if I treat you with empathy and compassion and kindness, ooh, you act differently, and guess what, I better do that more. So it is for us, it's a learned experience in relationship to you. But this is a couple I don't think that's been in it very long, from the
I
feeling
don't
that
think
I
so
get.
either. Yeah, so it's early on. Of course she's betrayed. Of course she's struggling.
Right,
So
right,
I'm glad you're
right.
here. I invite her to participate in these resources as well. So
And I want to say something to you spouses about, I just was talking to a woman, she's not here, I'm sure, who said, when I had mentioned those spouse support groups, her first thought was, I don't want to hang with a bunch of depressed loser women who don't know how to live with their husbands, you know. But I talked to her about a month later, and she said, I was so wrong. I have never felt closer to people than I do to these women. Of course, you're all in crisis. This is like your partners group is like a cancer survivor group. Like it's a bunch of women who's, God forbid, her child got cancer, and you're all in a group to support each other. That's what it is. In this case, your crisis has not been physical, it's been emotional, but you are still traumatized. And part of that healing is to join with others. Like, look, since time immemorial, until at least probably 600 years ago, we lived in community. We turned to each other, we supported each other, we were never alone. And that is part of the challenges, I think, in our culture, is that we get so kind of siloed in our relationships that we don't make use of all the support that's around us. So anyway, that's my big response.
thank you. Okay, next one. I'm a sex addict in recovery. I'm currently seeing a CSAT and working through your workbook, which is the Sex Addiction 101 workbook for those of you listening. How do you suggest maintaining healthy sexuality while in a long distance relationship? We have tried masturbating together via video cam, but I have been unable to stay aroused and I'm not really interested in getting sex toys. Even while we're physically together, I started having trouble maintaining an erection and dislike sex. Previously, I had many anonymous sexual encounters, but I have no history of trauma.
Okay. So I just feel like there was a period put at the end of that sentence that basically said, and I don't want to hear about it. I've made up my mind of who I am and what's happened to me. Um, If you're able to have erections with sex workers or masturbating to porn, then you can have erections with your wife. If your body works sometimes, it's capable of working all the time. So most of the men that I work with have profound challenges with intimacy. We can get it up in a heartbeat for a stranger, but with our spouses, we feel reticent, we feel distant. Actually, what's going on is it's scary for us for many reasons. And I hate to tell you this, but no one ends up in this situation without trauma. Nobody. Because when you love someone and you're close to them and you're healthy background, you have sex with them and you enjoy it. Maybe not 40 years later, but it's certainly the beginning. So this is your problem. It's not about your relationship. It's not now. How about the long distance part? It doesn't sound. I'm sorry. I'll say that. It doesn't sound like your long distance part is any different than your in person part. You still struggle with connection, intimacy. Let me say it to the addicts. Every one of you in the room. We are used to approaching sex from a particular stance, which is, ooh, that's intense. Ooh, that's exciting. Ooh, it's a secret. I'm going to go there. And so we move toward intensity, crazy with people we don't know, whatever it is. And we feel like that's going to make us feel better. But that is like you spouses asking more and more questions. It doesn't really resolve the issue. What we're looking for is intimacy. And the thing is, we only know how to turn to strangers. So understand that how addicts approach sex with our partners is unfamiliar to us. We are used to entering sex from a lot of intensity, a lot of excitement, woo, whatever it is, our heart pounding, and to sit with you as just someone we love, someone we're connected to. Sex has to come from willingness, not passion in an intimate relationship. I don't, no offense, I won't ask Tami, but I don't look at my spouse of 20 years and say, ooh, will you look at that? I've seen that before. Okay, that's just the way it goes. So if we're going to make love, it has to do with how we feel and how we express what we're doing in the moment with each other. And I'll tell you, as a sex addict, I would rather lie in bed and read than have sex with you. But it's not about you. It's about me. It's about my fears, my anxiety, my trauma. And you guys, partners, it is not okay for us at a certain point to not have sex with you, because our healing is not just about stopping something. Our healing is also moving toward something. I told the men in group today that the most important word in the language is HOME. It's home. And what I think most of the men I work with do, think they're running towards something, but they're actually running away from home. They've been running away from home since they were little, and they never decided to come back home. It is our job in life to create a sense of foundation and home and peace with another person. And if you're not able to, including sexuality, and if you're not able to do that, there's something wrong and you need to work on it. So I would not go to making decisions about, I don't have trauma. Get yourself into some work and work on yourself. And by the way, there are sexologists who understand how to deal with erectile dysfunction. I have a PhD in sex. Isn't that weird, Tami? I have a PhD. I know how to work with erectile dysfunction. Others of us do. So anyway, that's that. I know we're late, but can we ask just one more? Because I was late.
Yes, we can. And I appreciate you hanging. Okay. So my
Sure.
partner recently discovered my infidelity about a month ago. We decided to save the relationship, and I'm seeking all the help and resources that I can find, out of the doghouse being one of them. In regards to the questions at the end of chapter 6, what are your thoughts on keylogger and GPS technology in regards to disclosure discussed in chapter 6 and 7? And that I make 2 lists. Okay, this is a lot. So I'm going to answer the first part. There are updated resources consistently on sexandrelationshiphealing.com under the resources tab. We keep current on what technology. So go there and look at the technology. Disclosure discussed in 6 and 7. Should I make 2 lists? You should work with a therapist. You should work with a qualified professional to help you and to help your partner should be as well. That's my 2 sentences on that. What do you think?
I think you got it.
Okay.
Let's
so
try
then
one more.
we're going to do another. How does one begin to trust others, trust what others are saying that is supportive and encouraging when my interactions with my parents have been transactional and haven't been able to trust them growing up? Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for posting that
It's
one.
a great question. I don't know if this is what Tami would say, but I would say that we don't just start trust with our partners, and I think what you're talking about with the history you have is a great thing to go to support for. You know, if you grow up with alcoholics, ACA. If you grow up with incest survivors. The 12-step process is a really, really good way. And again, it's about creating connections with other people. So I hate that I can't see these questions. Someday we're gonna figure that out.
But if
Anything else you want to say about that?
I'm gonna put, if I hit
If you put them
answer
in
live,
answered,
can you, if I put it in answered, okay, I'm gonna put done. So then it should just pop into answered. Can you see it now?
my partners recently discovered my infidelity a month ago. We decided to save the relationship. Yes, I can see it then. So
I'm gonna do that next time. Okay.
thanks. Now that this is in front of me, and I'm reminding, because I'm really, you know, a little forgetful at my age. It's been a month. And I'm not sure. I hear we decided to save the relationship. I don't think you have a relationship yet to save. I think your relationship is already fallen apart. It's going to be a mess for a while. And I worry about spouses, and you spouses who've been around, who just say, okay, it's been a month. I know you made a mistake. Let's move on. That ain't it. Because the only thing that motivates us for change is you, at least in the beginning. I told the guys in treatment today, I have a room full of wife referred clients. They are there for this very reason. So, and part of it is they might be 6 months or a year in before they decide whether they're going to work it out or stay together. So my short response to this is, I would take time to say we're going to save this relationship. It's not even shown the cracks yet. A month is not enough time to see what's actually happened other than the cheating or whatever. So I would go a lot slower. As far as GPS and what about all that? What are they asking, Tami?
Well, it's the trackers and things like that. And that's what I refer to
Right,
on sexandrelationshiphealing.com.
right.
That the blogs that are updated, they're updated regularly because we don't keep track of, I mean, there's new software all the time. So check that out. So,
And let me
oh,
say one more thing, because they mentioned GPS. Addicts, if you want to restore this relationship, you want this relationship to heal, then you're willing to go, as we say, you know, to any lengths to some degree. So oh, we're in the transactional, right? Well, I think what I said about the transactional relationships and encouraging when you had terrible interactions with your parents is you have to grow new relationships with new people and work on yourself in relationship to others. That's like, you need to turn out for support just like your spouse does. And as far as GPS, that's what I wanted to say. I've had spouses say, okay, you did disclosure. I want a polygraph to make sure that's true. I've had spouses say, I want you to wear a GPS track. I want to GPS track your phone, and I want to know where you are all the time for a month, or, you know, short period of time. And I've had many addicts get their backup. It's like, well, I'm not going to let you track me. And who do you think I am? And it's like, well, if you were a drug addict, we'd be able to test you to see if you've done drugs. So we can't test you to see if you're lying or not. I mean, that's not how we can do it. So I always have more to say about these. So I think that whatever your spouse wants, you do. Now, I would not suggest that if it's a tracking software that your spouse gets the information, that's like making them into your parole officer. That's why we have sponsors and therapists and other people to track us. But yeah, bring it on. Trackers, filters. The only thing is, if you think that's going to save you from the problem, it isn't. Because when you feel like acting out, you can have the best filter on in the world, and you'll start typing in Venus to Milo just to see naked statues. I mean, that's who we are. You got to get it on the inside. The filter's not going to save you on the outside in the moment. But do you still want to answer questions? How many people in
I
the stream?
do. I've got another one that I really want to answer.
76. Well, let's just keep going. I had a snack.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right. So this one, I'm going to refer to the chat. So hopefully you can see that. But it says, my wife has not responded to my texts or calls, but let my FaceTime. So this person there, oh, this is really long. I'm going to have to cut it. So this person's wife left. Yeah, left yesterday. They've been married for 5 years. They've got 2 young children. Our ground zero D-Day was December of last year. And basically, she left, not responded to text or calls, but let him FaceTime with his son today. I left a voicemail for her father. Oh, and I feel like I should message her brother and explain my regret of the actions. We actually talked earlier today, and he's doing all the things that I suggested not doing. So what are your thoughts on this? Is there any advice I
don't know what you suggested.
Her family? Well, like I suggested that he work on him rather than blasting out to all her family and trying to explain to everybody and getting everybody in that. So, but He
And
chose to do that. So
what's your goal? What is your goal here? Because I
his
would think
goal is
that
to
kind
get
of,
her back. And I
well,
was like,
right.
until you become honest and, yeah. So anyway, go ahead, please.
But I think the individual disclosures running around is sort of like, you still love me, right? And we'll work this out, right? And you'll forgive me, right? Who knows? And so it feels like you're fishing to get, see how this, and it's really, let me say one more thing, and this is maybe for the people in treatment. Sometimes we leave treatment or we really get involved in recovery, feel so good about it, or we feel like our life has been changed, and we want everyone to hear the gospel. We run around trying to fix mom and dad and, or what you're doing. And I think that it is all about you. And you need years. I needed years of, I mean, I can sit here and give direction and support, but I've been in recovery for 35 years. I've been doing this a very long time in the right way. So,
He's
yeah,
trying
I
to
don't,
reach out to everybody I
right.
think it feels very much like, I want to tell you, I want to be different and all of that, rather than focusing on himself. I shared with this person earlier, you will, if she never comes back to you, you will always co-parent, you will grandparent, be the best co-parent you can be. If you work on you, she'll see that you're different. If you're just calling and bothering everybody in the family and trying to get them on your side, that's very manipulative. So I don't think that's a winning game
And I would
plan.
ask, does your spouse feel comfortable with your talking to all these people about her sex life?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing. You're not just talking about what you did, you're talking about what's going on between you and your spouse. Does she want you talking about that? Anyway,
Okay.
so yeah,
One more.
one more.
Okay. My question is about penile. It's PIDE. Well, it says penile erectile dysfunction, but that's
Pina,
it's
that's
porn induced erectile.
PIED,
Yeah.
porn induced
Porn
erectile
induced
dysfunction.
erectile dysfunction. That's what I was getting stuck. And sex addiction. If a man uses drugs to help him, for and that we hear this all the time, Cialis and Viagra, etc. So if a man uses drugs to help him with erectile dysfunction for years on end and tries to continue his sex addiction, how can this affect his other relationships and his life due to the struggle and pain of addiction plus ED? I'm trying to understand a very old friend's feelings and behaviors towards me over the years as a friend and love addict.
So the question in there is, this person's trying to help a friend. Is that what they're
Yes,
saying?
because this seems to be a female. A man uses drugs to help him with erectile
Okay.
dysfunction. How does
So,
that affect sex addiction and relationships in general?
well, I would like it if he didn't take the drugs and he had sex with you without getting an erection. What would it be like to hold you, to masturbate you, to love you, to be with you? I know that when I ask guys what sex is, they're like, well, it's penetrative, it's intercourse, and I'm like, well, no, not really. Sex is anything you wouldn't do in a public park with a 4-year-old around. So there are many ways you can be intimate, to be close. And I actually, I'm sorry for the erectile dysfunction, but sex addicts put much too much emphasis on sex. Sex is part of a relationship, but it isn't the primary part. Um, so I would worry about someone who was so focused on their erections. What if you just didn't have them for a while and you had to be with your spouse and pleasure that spouse and be without worrying so much about whether you got anywhere, especially getting off? So, hey, Tama, we have something in the chat and I wanted to respond to it.
Okay.
This person who wants to tell everyone in their life about this, he says, I think I wanted to do it because I felt if I didn't speak to them, meaning my brother-in-law, whoever it is, then they'd speak to my wife. And currently my wife is with my father-in-law and my brother, and they have been the ones communicating with me, not my wife. So I guess if your wife wanted to communicate with you, she would. And maybe she's in a place where she doesn't want to, and that is to be respected. And I certainly wouldn't go around her by trying to get her father-in-law or your brother, whatever it is. I just wouldn't. I would accept the fact that she doesn't want to talk to you right now. I might send an email and say, I'm thinking about you and I'm really hoping that we can speak soon. To me, it would feel manipulative, no matter what you were talking to those relatives about, because they're right there with her. And by the way, we give up control of secrecy and how it comes out and all that when we do what we do. Behavior has consequences. I am so sorry that you don't want the other family members to hear all about this. You should have thought that before you did it. And I don't mean that in a callous way. I do want to, yeah, why don't we stop there? Because there's so much to say. Oh, you like that? That's good. Tami, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for hanging in there. I appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. So yeah, thanks for showing up. I was doing my best, but I love working with you. So
Your best is pretty darn good. And they
thank
all
you.
love you. You know, they don't think about me, they think about Rob and Tami. So anyway, thanks guys. I'll see you. Well, I'm on in the rooms on Friday. There's lots of
And
free
we'll be
stuff on
back
sex
here
and relationship
together on
healing.
Monday. So all right,
And I will
thanks
say one more
everybody.
thing.
Mhm.
If you have not listened to the podcast, I have a podcast called Sex, Love, and Addiction. Uh, we get, I think, almost 750,000 people have listened to this podcast. So it's not just something that might be fun, you know, if you're interested. It's about relationships and betrayal with a lot of, I think, pretty world-renowned therapists talking about these very issues: intimacy, couples, breakups, lying, cheating, having good relationship, having good sex. It's all in there. And that's why we did it. Oh, by the way, podcasts are free. So feel free. Thanks again, Tami. See you
Thank
guys later.
you. Bye.